Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar. Um, this These two groups of bugs are something I've never actually specifically given a talk on. So I wasn't quite clear at the beginning of putting this webinar together how it would work. And I was surprised at how much help I needed from images of the species. There's only 23 species of reduvids and nabids, and yet there's so much to say about them. So without further ado, I hope this is going to work. So I hope it'll be you'll get something useful out of it. Um, I'll get on to the first screen, which I'm not quite sure how to forward it. Liana, can you help me?
You can either probably click or use the right arrow on your keyboard. That might work. Or maybe
Um,
spacebar. Are any of those working?
it doesn't seem that I
Or you
can.
maybe scroll with your mouse. That might work as well.
Uh, oh, sorry. Yes, I beg your pardon. Got it now. Yeah. Um, okay. The sort of first question that I thought of was are damsel bugs and assassin bugs related? They're both well known for being active predators on a range of other insects. And so what I came up with was this higher classification chart, which is only a part of the whole of the het bugs, the Heteroptera. There's It doesn't include the Pentetamorpha, which covers the shield bugs and the seed bugs. And then there's five infraorders covering the aquatic bugs. But anyway, our two groups that we're looking at this evening fall into the Chimicimorpha. And as you can see, the reduvids and the nabids, they're not closely related, but there's many similarities. Um, so that's the answer to that. And so I'll go on to morphology actually, and then I'll go through the main species of each of the two groups. Um, so damsel bugs, they're readily recognizable in the field really because of their pear-shaped body, their robust rostrum. It's a four-segmented rostrum, which they use to good effect. And then they've got on the top of the head a pair of ocelli and long four-segmented antennae. And I mentioned no constriction of head behind eyes because that's one of the things that distinguishes them from most of the assassin bugs. And the four femora are comparatively robust. Um, as you can see, the femora aren't armored with spines or anything like that for an quite an aggressive predatory group. It's surprising, really, but they are, if nevertheless, effective in their catching of prey. And how do you tell males and females? Just a brief one here. The male abdomen at the genital capsule end, the apical end, has got a sort of movable clasper, and it's sort of disc shaped. It doesn't, I don't show it very well there, but it's held close to the end of the abdomen, and the females they've got the ovipositor within the gonococci, and so it should be relatively easy to even sex these things in the field. Um, so next we come to the morphology of assassin bugs. Um, Now there's two uh, types of assassin bugs that we get in Britain and Ireland, and well, certainly in Britain. And we've got Empicorus on the top left-hand side there, and we've got Reduvius personatus, two photos on the bottom of a specimen there. And what characterizes these bugs is the short curved and three-segmented rostrum, which you can see shown in the Empicorus image. It's a very robust looking thing and is makes for reduvids as effective predators. Then there is a pair of ocelli on the top of the head behind the large compound eyes, which I you can see on the Reduvius personatus just about, and that's B in that lower left-hand image. But in Empicorus, they don't have any ocelli, so that's an important distinction. Um, the assassin bugs have long four-segmented antennae, and there is an obvious constriction of the head behind the eyes, and you can see it when you've got the bug in dorsal view, as in the bottom two images. The four femora are also quite comparatively robust. And sometimes, I don't know if you can see on the Empicorus image, E, there's a number of fine spines on there which assist with the grabbing of prey. So that's the main features that distinguish assassin bugs. So, Glue, in a sort of world context, there's over 30 genera and around 400 species in two subfamilies. And the Palearctic region, we've got about 10 genera and 112 species. Now, in North America, I think there's about 30 species. Um, so the Nabidae and the Prostemata are two subfamilies, and the Nabidae are the typical group really for the Nabidae. They're particularly diverse in the Northern Hemisphere, but present in the Old and New World regions, as well as Australasia and the Pacific. And similarly distributed are the Prostematinae, with about 25 species in the Palearctic, which covers a big area. That the picture on the right-hand side in the middle is a typical Prostema. That's Prostema gutula, which was considered long extinct in this country. There's also some rather specialized behaviors in the damsel bugs. Arachnocoris is specialized in scavenging on trapped insects in the webs of spiders, um, and so that's it's very sort of an example of some of the specialisms that they get into. That's for the text on this. The summary of British and Irish damsel bugs, including a little bit about biology and life cycles. So we've got 13 resident species in Britain and Ireland, and they're mostly sort of kind of drabby, pale, reddish dark browns, um, with black markings on lots of black markings on legs and dorsum and marbling on the pronotum. And they range in size from 6.5 to 12 millimeters. So there's mainly quite large ones. Um, they lay eggs in the stems of herbaceous vegetation. Their eggs, I looked into a little bit about predation. Their eggs are predated by specialized scalionid parasitic wasps in the genus Telenomus. They're very small black parasitic wasps. And uh, so I don't know to what extent that's a sort of control on the population of damsel bugs. Usually there's a generation a year. Some overwinter as adults, and others in the egg stage. And the tree damsel bug is an example of an egg stage overwintering species. And nabids occur in a really wide range of habitats: wetlands, reed beds, salt marshes, and uh, all types of grassland, really, um, and as well as trees and shrubs. There's the ant damsel, the tree damsel bug is the example there I was thinking of. So yes, very highly aggressive predators. They're actively search for their prey, and they're considered beneficial insects. So there are British and Irish damsel bugs. Bugs are grouped into these three genera: Hemiceras, including the tree and ant damsel bugs, and Nabis, which comprise 8 species. Uh, and these are the most commonly encountered uh, damsel bugs. But Hemiceras is quite common as well, except for one. And then we have this Prostema gutula, which is quite an exceptional uh, damsel bug here, formerly extinct and rediscovered in 2019 after over a century with no records. So I'll talk about a little bit more about Prostema in a short while. Um, so the identification of damsel bugs is most are straightforward, but there's a lot of room for doubt here. They're quite difficult sometimes to separate in the field. So some specimens, it is advisable to collect them, especially from certain habitats on coastal heath and coastal dunes. There is a particularly uncommon species that occurs in those habitats, and they're quite difficult to identify. Um, Certainly from photographs. Um, so at the moment, where we're at, the plant bugs and allied families recording scheme, we're updating some keys to damsel bugs. We have made a previous draft available on the Terrestrial Heteroptera Recording Scheme's Facebook page, but I'm going to take that one down, and then I'm going to put up a new one, which has doing this webinar. The work for this webinar has really helped quite a bit on that. And then I've got a workshop with the Tanyptera Trust later on this year, I think, 10th of October, I think. And so hopefully we'll be using that new draft key for attendees there. So a lot to do. So I'll go into the identification of Hemiceras species. Um, they're mostly large and fairly robust looking. They've got this sort of reddish brown look to them, stripy sort of tibiae, and um, uh, they are readily fairly recognizable as Hemiceras, especially the tree and the ant damsel bugs. Uh, The forewings in Hemiceris are also densely pubescent, unlike the Nabis. Most of the Nabis. Only one of these three species is fully winged, which is the specimen on the right-hand side, extreme right-hand side on that set of photos there. Um, so we come to the tree damsel bug. This is usually quite arboreal, as its name suggests. The antennae in this species is very long, reaching the posterior abdominal segment. And the first segment is usually it's always longer than the length of the head capsule, which I think you can just about see on that photograph of the female. Um, so that's one of the easiest sort of field characters that you can use for separating this from the ant damsel bug. It's also bigger than the ant damsel bug. The size range of adults is from 8 to 11.5 millimeters. There's a bit of a small overlap with ant damsel bug on that. The inner margins of the hind tibia have long hairs, twice as long as the tibial width. Um, Adults are usually micropterous, but long wing specimens are occasional, mostly in the females. Uh, so with the Dam's bug, um, so the forewings are longer than in the tree damsel bug, reaching about midway point of the abdomen, as you can see on that top photograph of the male. We do have full wing specimens are occasional, and the antennae, which you can see, the first segments are not as long as the head capsule, which I think you can just about see on there. And the antennae are generally shorter. They go far as back as maybe three-quarters of the abdominal segments. And again, there's a slight overlap in size with tree damsel bugs. They tend to be more found in herbaceous vegetation as well. Um, and they overwinter in the adult stage, and the tree damsel bug overwinters in the egg stage. So you can see this species at most months of the year when there are suitable weather conditions. Um, Something unique about this ant damsel bug is the fact that the adults don't look like ants, but the early stage nymphs do actually look very similar to ants. And that middle picture on the left hand side there shows I think that's either a second or third nymphal stage, and you can see it's almost got sort of um, sharp protuberances on the sort of pronotum, and it gives it a sort of rather threatening look, like a an aggressive ant. So it's this sort of mimicry is obviously, I think, benefiting this species. And as the nymphal stages progress, they become less like ants, but they still look quite ant-like in the fourth nymphal stage, and then they become a lot broader in the final nymphal stage. So the relation to ants is not really. I don't find them generally associating with ants or ant nests, or I think it's much to do with the nymphal stages looking like ants, a case of mimicry. So an interesting a very interesting damsel bug, and not at all uncommon. It's very common to find. Um, the next Hemiceras major. This is the one that's always fully winged, and it's quite a robust looking damsel bug, um, and is very strongly ground dwelling. I've not often recognized nymphs when I've been searching for this, and it sort of overwinters in the egg stage, and I'm always pleased to find it. It's a very distinctive bug. The sides of the abdomen, which are this flattened exuvum, don't know if you can see that here. Um, but it's always pale, and the bug has very dark apical marks on the hind femur, and also on the forefemora. There is a strong black marking on the sort of, I think that's the posterior edge of the front femora, very strongly darkly marked, and it is makes it fairly distinctive. Um, Prominent eyes, but smaller than the next species that I'm going to talk about. Um, so a good one to find. I don't often. It's not one that I find that often. Um, Here is Hemiceras boops. This is uh, the most less common of the of the four species of Hemiceras. In fact, it's another very closely ground-dwelling bug, and you find it in kind of heathy, dry places, and it's always close to the ground. So grubbing around for this bug is a required method. But as you can see, it's got huge eyes. The eyes are actually as big as there's space on the head between them. And one of the other noticeable things is that it is very dense. The forewings are, again, it's brachypterous. This is short-winged, and it's always almost always brachypterous, short-winged, and full-winged forms are very rare. Um, but yes, the forewings are densely pubescent, and one of the other interesting features is that it has three longitudinal dark stripes on the pronotum, which I think you can see here on the lateral edges, and one on the center line. And again, it has the apical hind femora are darkened noticeably, as well as the front femora, as in the case of Hemiceras major. The smallest probably of the Hemiceras as well, getting no bigger than about 7 millimeters. Um, so that's Hemiceras boops. So now we come to the Nabis species. So this is just to summarizing the Nabis fauna really. And we've got on the left-hand side, we've got two species in each in its own subgenera. And these species have the forewings very short, without any membranes. We refer them to as micropterous. And then on the right-hand side, the more typical ones and the more fully winged or subbrachypterous species. in the subgenus Nabis and Nabicula. I think Nabicula has only one species, and I think that's Nabis flavomarginatus, the broad damsel bug. So yes, identification of these, of many of these, is best by checking a combination of characters, making sure that it does fit range really. And that may sometimes require dissection and examination of male and female genitalia. So in some cases. Um, so we come to the Nabis lineatus. These are I'm going to talk about the two Micropterus species. And as you can see, the forewings just seem to cover no further than the second abdominal tergites. And obviously these bugs are flightless. They don't seem to have a need, although winged forms ordered, but they're they're quite rare. I've never seen a winged form of lineatus anyway, and it's not something I record very frequently. Um, and these are characteristic of really good kinds of wetlands or wetlands that have a long continuity. One of the places that I've recorded these is on Thorn Moors, so on areas of reed, and reed beds do seem to be one of the habitats they're often found in. They're also found in the coastal zones, especially the sort of upper salt marsh. Um, the One of the characteristics is of the feature is the connextiva, which is the flat area along the abdomen. It's curved downwards. It does make it a little bit more narrower and more parallel-sided, especially the male. That the photograph shows a female there. It's very long. It's quite a long, large damsel bug, 9 to 12.2 millimeters, and uh, one of the other distinctive things about males is that the beak of the claspers is quite large and prominent. Um, so I'll go on to discussing the next very winged one, which is Lapis imbartus. Um, Now, I think a lot of people do confuse Lapis limbatus with lineatus. And the picture that I put down on the left-hand side there is some examples of females for comparison. Uh, so on the left hand, I've got three specimens of Nabis lineatus compared with the Nabis limbatus. And you can see the Nabis limbatus are overall smaller and they're kind of broader as well. The connextiva along the edge of the abdomen is sort of almost flat and projects laterally. So it just gives the impression of a broader insect, really. And the claspers in males are relatively small and not very conspicuous. And again, fully winged forms are rare, although they do occur. And probably that would be on occasion when habitat isn't sufficiently adequate for them, or population pressures, or other predation, or other kind of factors. Limbatus I find in not just sort of in a wide range of grasslands, quite sort of wet grasslands, but drier grasslands as well. It gets about a bit. It's not just marshy habitat that you find these in. So that's Limbatus. So this marginatus, this is a fairly distinctive one because of the um, the forewings actually reach half the length of the abdomen. And again, fully winged specimens are not very common, but I have seen them. Um, again, the connextiva along the edge of the abdomen is pale, and the dorsum of the abdomen is dark, as you can see. It's very dark there, but there's a sort of, oh, beg your pardon, there's a pale line with a sort of brownish red line that goes through it. It's a bit like where that nymph at the bottom right hand side shows this feature, and it is mostly found in the sort of damper grassland habitats. But again, like a lot of nabids, they like a lot of rough, good structure to grassland habitats. Um, and this overwinters in the egg stage. And I can see I've shown a fully winged female, which is could be confused with Hemicerus major, actually. But as you can see, the hind femora don't have black marks at the apical end, and the four femora are fairly well unmarked, just spit spotted. And here's another. Here's these are some of the more common damsel bugs, Nabis ferus, um, and I'm going to compare it with another species called Nabis pseudoferis, which is a much rarer thing and can be confused with it quite easily. So I'm saying 6.3855 millimeters length, slightly smaller. The males tend to be smaller in my experience, and they're most often found in the sort of drier grassland areas of a site. And although that's, you know, not restricted to that really, they're in a found in a quite a few variety of situations really. Overwinters as an adult, and it's always long-winged. But the wings are said to be densely hairy. Uh, that's what's often been quoted in the key, and I've seen some not very hairy ones, but suggest possibly pseudoferus. I've got pseudoferus there. But they are hairier than pseudoferus. There are also many veins on the membrane of the forewing. This is what makes it sort of recognizable from species like Nabis rugosus that has only a few membrane veins. Um, and the male claspers are distinctive in this species. It's got, as you can see on the bottom left-hand side, it's it's got a sort of tooth at the apical end, whereas Nabis pseudoferus has got a kind of lip that curls round, something that needs to be examined very closely in specimens that have been collected. Um, so Nabis pseudoferus, this is an enigmatic species for me. I don't think I've ever recorded it. And we don't have very many records of it in the recording scheme data set either. Um, Interestingly enough, it was first recorded in Britain in 1956, and most records are sort of from in coastal areas or within uh, coastal regions, especially sandy areas like dunes, and obviously there are some inland records like from the Bretland area. Um, but yes, the habitats that have been recorded include, you know, salt marsh and coastal grassland, mosaics with scrub and heath. Again, like Nabis ferus, it's always fully winged and overwinters as an adult. One of the things that has been used to separate pseudoferus from ferus has been, again, this hairiness of the wings. Uh, and I've put a diagram there showing the sort of apical end of the hardened part of the forewing. This is called the reference area. And A is uh, Nabis ferus, and B is Pseudoferus. And you can see that the hairs are much sparser in Pseudoferus, and also there's some black marks at the base of the hairs as well. That's another thing that is a noted feature to separate these two, but um, it's a difficult one to use, and I don't. Peter Kirby didn't use this particular character, but it's tempting to fall back on it to try and demonstrate that you've got pseudoferous. Uh, but it is a difficult species to identify. Habitat and location is helpful. And I found difficulty finding pictures of this species. As you can see, I've resorted to showing you what a possible pseudoferris looks like, and that's from the Bosphorus in Turkey, from iNaturalist. That's a Creative Commons image. So the next Nabis. So now we come to Nabis rugosus, the common damsel bug, and um, its name does suggest it is very common. It's the commonest Nabis that we get, and it's really very obvious in most grassland and herbaceous vegetation. Um, and color can be very variable, pale to reddish brown, depending on habitat. And you do get Nabis rugosus on heath, and it seems to sort of be the same color as as the Nabis ericitorum, the heath damsel bug. So these bugs need to be identified with care in certain habitats. It is actually broader in the body than the heath damsel bug, uh, and in males, they're probably the most easily to distinguish from the heath damsel bug by the looking at the genital segment. That's rather comparative, but it does tend to be broader than the heath damsel bug. And then the most easy feature to judge is by looking at the claspers and whether they are very visibly projecting outwardly, as in that diagram on the bottom right-hand corner. And so that's common damsel bug. And as you can see, the image, they tend to be slightly short-winged, but there are macropters, fully winged, where the wings do extend slightly beyond the end of the abdomen. So beware of that. Nabis ericitorum, um, which is widespread on heathland. It sometimes occurs off heathland as well, and that sometimes I've heard that it does affect the colour. Um, but this is the typical heathland nabid, and it's usually reddish brown. And I've shown a male there on the top left-hand corner and a nymph on the lower left-hand corner. Again, they're not fully winged in most cases, but it's probably from the specimens I've seen, probably narrower and more parallel-sided than Nabis rugosus, the common damsel bug. And as you can see, this is from the key that Kirby's produced. The claspers are not so outwardly extending as in the common damsel bug. As I say, females I find females quite difficult to identify, to be honest with you. Nabis brevis. Now, this is another really, really rare nabid. and we don't have very many records of in the recording scene data set. I would say we've got about maybe a couple of dozen. It's that uncommon. And I've had to use an image from Pericar's book on the Nabidae for this one. It looks quite recognizably distinctive because it's quite squat almost. It's not as long as other uh, other Nabis species. Again, with prominent eyes and long antennae, and it is very rare. It's the records that we have uh, it seems to be associated with wet heaths and bogs, and um, and our last reliable records actually date back to the 1960s. So the status of these species here is it's quite uncertain. I think it's likely to be under-recorded as but in the south, a lot of wet heath is has been well worked, I think, by a lot of people. And it may be it's probably at the edge of its range here. It's very much all the records are southerly. So to sort of certain identification, again, it's a fallback on male claspers and looking at the genital capsule. Um, but habitat is an indication. Again, it's one of these species that you need to get a good combination of characters to be sure that you've got this. One of the characters is this posterior surface of forefemur with this strong dark transverse smudgy mark from which are thick longitudinal lines drop down, and rugosus has some marks like that, but they're not as strong. But I'm always wary of color and markings in this respect. Uh, so Nabid is this special species. Prostema gutula. So a very distinctive nabid, really. Again, it's flightless, but most of the records, the few records that we had until recently were of all, I think they were all short-winged, and the British populations were considered short-winged and flightless. But on the continent, there are winged specimens, the winged individuals. So the interestingly, this was rediscovered, as I said earlier, new to or rediscovered in Kent on an ex-colliery site, and it was found on very sparsely vegetated habitat with kind of lichen heath, and uh, in that time since to now, we've noticed quite a number of other records. So it seems to be spreading. Now we don't really know because it's a flightless species. We're not quite sure how it's come to be rediscovered at Snowdon Colliery. It's we think maybe was it overlooked? Um, but it's difficult to say really how that's become established at that site. But there has been a number of other records now in other Kent sites, which I've referred to there, and also in at Landguard Point on the Suffolk coast. So it may be that they're coming over from the continent somehow and establishing, um, or being spread around from possible introduction. Um, I speculate on that. And interestingly, adults and nymphs, they feed on other het bugs, basically, especially the nymphs and of seed bugs in the Ligaidae. We've got plenty of records on the Channel Islands, and there are other species on the continent. There's several other species of Prostemma, and they look all very similar. But the species that we have here is definitely that have the recent ones are definitely Prostemma gutula. As an example of some museum collections do have this species, but very often they don't have any data with it. So it's it's a bit frustrating to come across these specimens. There's one from Derby Museum that I pictured there. So which brings us to non-native damsel bugs. This is another really interesting occurrence or a set of occurrences. Nabis capsiformis. This is a bug that until a few years ago was unheard of here, and I think it was 2023 when they first came over, and they were attracted by moth traps. This is a species that it's pan-tropical, pan-subtropical, and occurs in the sort of North Africa, Mediterranean. And in suitable conditions, it seems that they can disperse quite widely, usually in late season. And so, so for the past couple of years, we've had examples of Nabis capsiformis just dropping in on moth traps set on the south coast. We've had very rare occurrences inland. I think there has been, but they are striking. They are, as you can see that photograph, obviously photographs without any kind of measuring factor. It does have very, very long wings. I think you can just about see the membrane extending so far beyond the abdomen there. It's such a striking damsel bug. And yes, the last couple of years we've seen falls of these from long range dispersal. It's considered unlikely to breed here because it is reliant on the much higher temperatures from where it comes from. So unlikely to establish, but who knows, with the warming trend, that may change in the future sometime. So I think that's it regarding nabids. I'm going to talk about satin bugs, and this is really a really very interesting group. Although we have so few species here in Britain, um, uh, as you can see, in a world context, there's 800 species. Um, and it's hugely diverse, and especially in the tropical areas. And I looked in the catalogue of Palearctic Heteroptera. The Palearctic covers a big area, but it has 808 species. That's quite a significant portion of the total, really. Um, and they're again. They're strictly predatory, and there are a lot that specialize on certain types of prey, like millipedes or termites, ants, and even there are species that go into ants' nests, spiders' webs, and they scavenge on the prey that's caught up in the webs, um, and they're economically quite important, and sometimes they're bred for biocontrol, and they're even kept as pets. Uh, they've got highly diverse forms. As you can see, there's at the top there's Empicorus, the thread-legged uh, bugs, and then there's some very colourful ones, uh, especially in the tropics. That's not the most colourful one that I've seen, but they also have possess lots of spines as well on the pronotum and on legs and that. So they do look the business. Um, One of the interesting things about the assassin bugs is a group known as the kissing bugs, the triatomine bugs, um, which are developed into a lineage exploiting the blood of vertebrates. So they're blood feeders. And adults of many species readily attack man, and their importance is as vectors of a protozoan parasite known as Trypanosoma cruzi that causes Chagas disease. So that brings me to um, April the 14th is actually World Chagas Disease Day. I didn't know that until about a few weeks ago. So I thought it might be worth just having a little bit of conversation about the impact of this group of assassin bugs in their role in Chagas disease. Uh, so World Chagas Disease Day aims to raise awareness of Chagas disease because it's still a fairly impactful disease compared to other diseases. It's perhaps not a major thing uh, as some other diseases. But some statistics here, 6.5 to 7 million people are currently infected in 44 countries globally, but mostly in Central and South America, where Chagas disease is endemic, and an estimate of about 100 million at risk. So um, there's also around about 10,000 deaths per year. Um, it is a very debilitating disease for people who have it, and it affects mainly the heart, I think, and also the digestive system. Um, it's one of these diseases. I think that Charles Darwin actually talked about being attacked by one of these Benchucas, he called it, or the great pampas black bug or something like that, when he was describing his voyages on the Beagle. And some people have speculated that this may have been the cause of his ever present poor health once he got back to Britain. But it's just speculation. But he did have uh, many digestive problems for the rest of his life. Um, but worldwide, there are about 150 triatomine species that are or potential vectors of Chagas disease. I think there's about 70 alone in Brazil. Um, they've also been documented as blood feeding on about 150 species of mammal, including man, of course. So there's quite a big reservoir of the disease. It can be not just directly contracted from these bugs, but also in blood transfusions, infected blood, or passed on in pregnancy. Um, so there's quite a lot of research being done on it. There's huge amounts, but they still haven't got a vaccine for Chagas disease. But they're trying to develop. And here's a sort of I thought I'd include a sort of rogues gallery of triatomine bugs. These are the major vectors, considered to be the major vectors of Chagas disease, like Triatoma infestans. That's one of the main ones, and Rhodnius prolixus is quite plays a major role. The problem also seems to be extending. There are problems in Africa, parts of Africa and India and Southeast Asia, and even in America, north of Mexico. They're worried that some of these bugs with climate change may colonize places like Florida or the southern parts of the southern states and bring the disease with them. So that's so back to our British and Irish assassin bugs. These don't have the facility for there's no triatomines in Britain, so um, uh, these are fairly safe unless you handle some of them incautiously. So we got 9 resident species in Britain and Ireland, and they range from quite small to a whopping great 20 millimeters in size. The generation can extend to well over a year because some of these assassin bugs are so associated with synanthropic habitats. They like warm habitats. There's no sense of season, so um, they do tend to be longer lived. Um, 5 nymphal stages to adulthood. There's one thing I didn't mention about nabids. I think a lot of nabids can become adult in 4 nymphal stages. So assassin bugs overwinter as adults and nymphs. Um, and they are particularly synanthropic, and mainly occurring in the vicinity of human settlement. Except for the threadleg bugs, the Empicorus bugs, they're more they can be found in many sort of natural habitats. They're mostly arboreal actually. I find them a lot from beating trees and shrubs in semi-natural environments. Um, so again, they're predators. Our species are predators on other arthropods, not blood feeding on vertebrates. And there's one thing that's unique to assassin bugs is that they have this capability of stridulating by rubbing their rostrum against a ridged groove on the prosternum. I'm sorry, I haven't got a photo to sort of or a diagram to show that. But the grooves, there's supposed to be hundreds of grooves on this uh, uh, hundreds of ridges on this groove, which um, they can rub the rostrum against. Okay, so we'll come to the Empicorus assassin bugs. We've got 4 species in Britain now, and there are 2 in Ireland. They're also known as thread-legged bugs, and they, as you can see from the image there on the right-hand side, they're quite delicate-looking species with very long, thin legs and antennae. Uh, they tend to sort of walk on their 2 hind pair of legs, and they hold the forelegs very close to the head, in readiness for pouncing on potential prey. So that's one thing that you will see if you come across these Empicorus bugs. One of the things I think I mentioned before, they don't possess ocelli. That's a distinctive thing about Empicorus bugs. Um, and they're quite arboreal. They're in conifers. You can find them in coniferous trees and deciduous trees, and they are ambush bugs, really. They predate on soft-bodied arthropods like book lice, bark lice, and other small insects. Um, and adults are found throughout the year, and they hibernate throughout during winter. So that's Empicorus assassin bugs, and I'll go into the detail into the species right now. Okay, the first one we're looking at is probably the commonest Empicorus species that we get here in Britain, and there are records from England, Scotland, and Wales. It appears to be absent at the moment from Ireland, but that might change. It's found in a wide range of situations, obviously mostly on trees, in parks and gardens, urban sites, even in sand dunes they can be found. Apparently, we've got some records from those kind of situations. This is also the largest of the Empicorus bugs, getting into about nearly 7 millimeters or just over. There are two spines present on the scutellum, but they don't tend to be as obvious as in the other species. And one of the other important features to note is that the forewing, the pterostigma, which is on the leading edge, uh, is pale and unmarked. I've arrowed that on the photo on the left there. So that's one thing to note really in comparison with the other species. And here we come to Empicorus bearenspringi. This is a nationally scarce species. We don't have very many records of these, and I don't really have a reason for that, but it's been most recently recorded from Hertfordshire in 2018, and most records tend to be from southern England, with a single record from Lincoln in 2013, which is uh, shown on that photograph lower left-hand side. There are actually one of the main distinguishing features of this bug is that it has a pronotum with a tubercle at the rear end. Um, it's obvious in that diagram, top left hand, but sometimes it's not so obvious and needs to be carefully looked for if you think if you think your specimen is going to be bearenspringi. There are actually two long spines on the pronotum. The pronotum seems to have two levels. It's got an upper level, which is shown on that diagram then, and then there's a sort of lower part of the scutellum, which has another equally longer spine. And I think this is other species of Empicorus have this these two spines, long spines. So that's bearenspringi. Next one is Empicorus culiciformis. This is quite widespread, but not as commonly recorded as vagabundus. And again, it occurs in a wide range of situations, and even is considered partly synanthropic, which means that it's around, can be found around in human habitation, and um, it's certainly quite uh, varied in its preferences of occurrence. The thing to note here is there's three features that can help to identify Coliciformis, and the most important one is the pterostigma. Again, on the leading edge of the wing, you can see that it has a dark spot as shown in A on the image there. There's a long lateral carina, which is like just a line that comes from the posterior edge of the pronotum. And they're also, as I mentioned earlier, this is a species that has two long spines on the scutellum. That's C on the image, and there isn't an obvious tubercle at the rear of the pronotum, and it's smaller as well than Vagabundus, coming in at around 4 to 5.5 millimeters. So the um, they tend to be around the middle of that range of length, really. So not very big at all. We've got now to come to a recent arrival to Britain, which is Empicorus rubramaculatus. This was recorded new to Britain in 2017 from a moth trapping session, and and soon we had a couple of other records from Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. Now, the Bedfordshire record, I think, was the first time it was recorded, and the 2017 record was subsequent to that, when an image was definitely confirmed to be Rubra maculatus. So as you can see, it's got a fairly medium size to it, sort of approaching Vagabundus length, but not quite. There's the image down there is a, a, a Kentish specimen by Peter Kirby. And one of the main features is the pterostigma is pale with a kind of red line going through it, a red stripe, as you can just about see on that wing there. And the map shows on the left-hand side shows at the moment where the records are up to date, I think. And so it's certainly on the increase, and I expect that we'll get many more records, possibly from further north and more westerly, I should imagine. So identifying Rubra maculatus, one of the two features really that make it very distinctive from other Empicorus species is this short lateral pale carina on the anterior part of the pronotum, which is indicated there by A. It's very obvious in most specimens. So if you come across this assassin bug, uh, the best photographs you can take are from the side, really, showing that pronotal carina, and also the dorsum, and the image at the bottom there just shows how the pale pterostigma has got a red or pale red stripe running through it. Sometimes it's not so obvious, and you're reliant on checking the side of the pronotum. So that's Rubra maculatus. So there are three species. They're all very similar looking, and the first two species, Caranus subapterus and Caranus woodroffae, they kind of do occur in similar. They can occur in similar habitats like heathy sites, especially around the coast. And Caranus aethiops, well, that's a recent addition. So I'll go on to talk about Caranus subapterus, and this is a, 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 a a typical, well, was considered the only Caranus that we had at one time in Britain. But the form, there was a form that was recognized, which has now been named as Caranus woodroffae. Um, And the differences between these two they are a little subtle. Um, and but I've had the experience of Piranhas abroad, not in Britain actually, so to my shame. So I must make some efforts to go to some places and find these species if I'm going to talk about them. Um, so in this species, the wings extend to the rear half of the pronotum. Sorry, the rear half of the abdominal tergite there. I think it's three, often reaching tergite four. Um, and these Piranhas, they have clearly defined apical membranes on those short wings. The underside is also carries a character that can be used to separate Piranha sabapterus and Woodroffae on the underside of the females only. And the females have in sabapterus a very thin dark line, and in the Woodroffae it's much thicker. And if I go and show you there, so there's Caranus woodroffae, which has the wings only reaching, they're vestigial wings really. So they're kind of flightless really, and they reach to the end of Tergite 2 in that photograph there, and sometimes they might extend a tiny bit beyond it. And also I've put in a diagram showing the line, the stripe on the underside of the females, which can be quite smudgy and spread out um, in that bottom diagram, and more of a line in the upper diagram. Um, so the other one is Coranus apios. This is a recently recognized one being found from specimens in Thornmoor from quite a while ago now. But it's also been found since then on Budbeath South Forest RSPB Reserve in Nottinghamshire. And that's thanks to Trevor Pendleton and Keith Fowler, I think, had found one. But I think it was a female. But it took them a while to sort of confirm that this was actually Caranus aethiops. Uh, and it is a species that occurs in northern Europe. It's a boreal cold tolerant species. So it made sense that we were finding it. But um, I don't think there's been any other reports of it, but uh, a welcome species really to find. There is another black-bodied, uh, yeah, the black underside is the distinctive character. There is another continental species with a black underside, but it's a Mediterranean species, so it's unlikely to be that. Um, so that's the underside compared with a Caranus sabapterus. These are males. Reduvius parsonatus, also known as the master assassin bug. This is a really distinctive bug by its large size, and it's always fully winged and majorly synanthropic. At one time, it was a major predator of bed bugs, but it feeds on many other invertebrate groups. Mostly active in nocturnally and is attracted to lights, especially moth trapping. A lot of the records that we're getting now are derived from moth traps. And the other thing that is notable about this species, its nymph is it covers itself in, as you can see on the left hand, bottom left hand, is a picture of a typical nymph with that covers itself in lots of dust and particles, and I guess it's sort of uh, a good ploy to conceal itself from prey. But yes, it's a well-known feature that, and it's also capable. The adults are capable of inflicting a piercing stab if handled carelessly. Um, Yeah, we've got quite a lot of records now. This is the verified eye record distribution. There's even one in up in Yorkshire, which I think Tristan Bentop was quite happy to verify. Curiously absent from the southwest. There is one old record, I think, in Cornwall going back to early 20th century. But there are also older records from Lancashire, Cheshire, and Wiltshire, as well as Somerset. Um, this is a strange one. Pygolampis bidentata. I had to get another a photo of a continental specimen to just show what it was like. Considered extinct in Britain, and last seen, I think, in the 1920s. Only a total of 3 records. The first one from Shropshire in 1835. And this is a really enigmatic thing. It's certainly probably extinct, but whether it might colonize again, I can't say. Um, the length is typical of a robust assassin bug. The head is parallel-sided behind eyes, which is distinctive about it. Just finally, non-native assassin bug species recorded in Britain. Onchocephalus pilicornis. This is a strange one. This was found a long time ago, but it wasn't until well after the find that it was identified as this Onchocephalus pilicornis, found in a natural setting, and it was rather puzzling to the people who were looking into this. Paul Whitehead in the main, and he suspected that it might occur in other tall reed fens where it was found in Worcestershire. But we've had no records since then of it. So how it managed to be in the River Avon near Pershore or in the floodplain of the River Avon, we don't really know. It's an enigmatic record. Um, One final non-native assassin bug species recorded in Britain, but only indoors, we think, is this Zealous renardii. This is a species from the Americas, introduced into Europe, first detected in Greece, but now spreading in many countries around the Mediterranean. But there are records of it's obviously getting moved around. So there are records of imported specimens from Britain, Denmark, and Germany in 2020. So it's 5 years ago. But we had a recent record in 2024 of it, which suggests that yeah, these things are getting around a bit. So it may be one to look out for in the future, uh, particularly in the warming climate trends that we've got. It may be something that may well establish eventually here. It's very distinctive, so yeah, one to look out for. Just a couple of bugs that were mentioned by Southwood and Leston. These are sort of kind of imports. Amphibolus venata, a predator of various stored product insect pests. So you know, with the imports of food, you're always going to get these kind of records. I don't think I've heard of any recent such records. And there's Reptipta introduced into Britain with bananas from the West Indies. Um, Highly unlikely to establish here, but novel and interesting. Um, Finally, on Rebuviids, and I just wanted to sort of mention some literature relating to damsel bugs and assassin bugs. And here's there is quite a bit out there, and this covers Southwood and Leston is good on biology and historical context information on reduvids and nabids. And the Bill Dolling on the right has very good summaries of the two families. Really, yeah, they're really really useful, concise, and very precise, as Bill is. Finally, two German works, which are one's already been published. It's the generic key, but there's a species key that's hopefully going to be published this year, or it might be next year. But that will be very interesting to get hold of because they will probably cover all the British species and the more diverse continental fauna. So, one to look out for. Uh, this is the French fauna. Nabid volume on the left-hand side you can download from the Faune de France site. So that's absolutely free, but not the Reduvid on the right-hand side, not yet anyway. That was published in 2010, so they tend not to do that with the more recent publications for a while. And then it's quite useful, basically because uh, it's a synthesis of all the kind of recent research that has been done on the Heteroptera and is really the kind of uh, need uh, that it gives to classification. For instance, it's raised a lot of subfamilies into families and vice versa, uh, based on molecular studies, DNA, and it's an expensive book, but it has the family diagnoses are very useful, and it's got some. It is a big book, so. Um, I think it's fairly well valued for money. There's also even an assassin bug on the front cover in action. Uh, I'm not saying buy it, but not an excuse to buy it. And so to see where the sorts of photographs that I've had to source from to put this together. So I hope that people have got something out of this sort of introduction really to two fascinating Hemiptera groups or Heteroptera groups, I should say. Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was a really excellent introduction and going to be a really useful guide for now, and I think in the future. Lots of species there that I've never seen. I know there's quite a southerly bias to these families,
There
as
is.
in all the
Yes.
bug families, I suppose. But lots of really kind of cool looking species there that I would love to
Yeah.
see.
I mean, and it could be changing in terms of climate change. Um, these things are moving north, and I think with Reduvius personatus, it's always likes warm environments, and hence why it's synanthropic. But because the outside is catching up with the inside, who
Yeah,
knows? Who knows? It may sort of also be found more outside in future years. So yeah, there's always change. This is the fascinating thing about them.
absolutely. And I was wondering whether whether we might be able to get some more photos for you or just
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I I think
because
I've
on
tried.
collections, obviously they've done some quite a bit of field work from World Museum in the Mediterranean,
Oh,
things like,
right.
I don't know if we've had.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the photos I've used from iRecord and iNaturalist using the Creative Commons sort of facility, I guess. And I think people, I mean, I don't put any restrictions on my photos when I put on iRecord because, well, um, I'm not particularly possessive of images, but I like to think that people, you know, if they think that an image of whatever I put on is useful, then I'm happy for them to have that. And so I owe a debt to most of those people in the acknowledgements there. So thank you for helping me. And if anybody's got any questions or they think of any questions, then I guess they come through to you, Gary, or Leanne. I don't know if anybody's got questions at the moment that they want to ask me.
Yeah, I received nothing
Oh,
direct, but there is just in the chat. Nick had said that he'd found a specimen of um, coronate. Is it Coronatus aethiops?
Coranus aethiops, yeah.
Coronatus aethiops
Somebody
in
has
at Kirkby Moor in Lincolnshire.
Kirkby Moor. Oh, right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Has that come in through iNaturalist or iRecord at all, or do we know if he's got a specimen?
Hi, Jim. It's Nick here.
Hi, Nick. Hi, Nick.
Yeah, I sent you the stuff about Paratricus convifers, so you might remember me.
Oh, I do. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I should have a specimen in the box somewhere, so
Oh,
I can send
wow.
you I can send you if you want. So
Yeah, that would be great. I
yeah,
mean, does it have a black underside then?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was about a year and a half ago.
Oh, right.
So yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure it was it. Yeah. So
oh,
I can,
well,
if you want it, I can send you the specimen.
oh, that would be great. Yeah, I'd be happy to confirm to put that run through the key and yeah, it's that would be great. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Great. Yeah, Lincoln is about level where I am. Yeah, that's on the
All
east
right.
side, isn't it? So I wonder whether we could some things spreading that could be on
Yeah.
our side.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, I'm just saying that yes, I mean on the in respect of the recording scheme, we've probably got around about 20,000 records of damsel bugs. Some of those still need some of those do need to be verified. They're on iRecord. They include iRecord um, records. So we've got a sizable data set, but again, we have so few records on species like Nabis brevis and Pseudoferus because um, they are difficult species to sort of actually get to grips with and require collection of specimens, unfortunately. Um, but we do have a lot of information about distribution, and so, but you know, I encourage people to sort of keep on sending us records, basically, and either on iNaturalist or iRecord, whatever whatever you favour. And we've got about, I think we've got about 1,300 records for the assassin bugs. Um, I think uh, uh, with I think 300 of most of those are for the Empicorus bugs. They're the most commonly found ones. Uh, but as I say, Reduvius personatus, we've probably got about maybe about 300 records in total now, including the recent ones that have come in on iRecord and iNaturalist. So again, that I think that's a reasonably good data set for a fairly poorly diverse group for this area, for this region.
Yeah, and with the Reduviids, there's as British bugs is obviously, of course, a fantastic resource.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
used a lot over the years, but there's only one Epicurus on there.
I know it's
There's only
frustrating, isn't
three
it?
Reduviids, isn't there, in total?
I'm going to drop a line to Tristan to sort of get him to sort of do that. There's a few other things that he could do, but I mean he's such a busy guy,
Yeah,
so um, I try not to hassle him. But yes, I mean it's probably worth getting some photos because I'm sure people would want to see if they've taken good pictures of, say, Empicurus rubromaculatus. Yeah, get it on there. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, if I had a really good picture on there, I'd want Tristan to use it. That would be good. And so yes, I think we need to have better representation on British bugs for assassin bugs. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
yeah, there we go. And I think of course, there's a lot of literature out there now, as you've shown, but I think a
Yeah,
lot of people still probably don't have any of those, and they probably rely on the British Bugs website.
they do. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, this is this
it's
this is
fantastic.
the thing is that you take a picture on your mobile phone and then the immediate thing is to go to the British Bugs website, which is a
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah,
But then because it's not that comprehensive, you sometimes are tempted to sort of shoehorn something into what that you've got that really isn't what it is. Um, so that's the downside of a site that isn't actually comprehensive in coverage. Um,
yeah.
but I'm
It's so
sure
hard to be comprehensive, though, isn't it? And
it
they
is.
do a
Well,
good job of saying, there is the other ones in the genus, don't they? They do a good job of kind of warning you, I suppose.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. There is there are caveats and useful caveats and hopefully we don't they don't let people run away with themselves regarding identification. Um, so yes, it's still my go-to place for uh, just to remind myself. I always have to relearn certain species. I mean, this webinar is a case in point. Is that I've relearned stuff, but I've also picked up on a lot of new stuff as well that I hadn't realized. Um, so that will inform, the development of the next draft key, which I shall work on fairly soon. So yeah.
Excellent. Is it worth mentioning at this point that the corresponding workshop in the museum in October is already almost half booked. So
Oh,
no,
great. I look
wait.
forward to that. So yeah, I mean that will be uh I'll be relying a lot on your assassin bug specimens that you've got there. I know you've got a few. One of one of the specimens that I did show in that talk was from the collection of A.A. Allen, um, and that was I think it didn't look quite the right color. It was Reduvius personatus looks really black, but that looked brown. But I mean it must be about 70 years old, so
Mm.
it's but I still think it's typical but of that species. But yeah, I may not be able to have that species with me because we're trying to find a home for it for the collection at the moment. So it may end up with yourselves actually. So that may come to pass. So
The collection of A.A. Allen,
mm, mm. I did email
Steve.
Steve a while about it. I don't know if he mentioned it to you, but it's actually in the stewardship of forgotten the guy's name now. Oh dear, how embarrassing. It's not in my stewardship, but I'm sort of having a loan of it to abstract information on the seed bugs for the seed bug review.
Right.
So that's why I've got them at the moment, but it's going to go back soon to the chap who's uh, uh,
Look after
been
it.
who's had it for the last 15 years since A.A. Allen died.
Okay, I'll ask Steve about that actually.
Yeah, if you could.
Great. Yeah, so everyone in the audience, don't leave it till September to book onto that workshop because it will fill up
Yeah,
probably.
I've got plenty of material to bring along, so there'll be plenty to keep them busy, I think.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that should work really well as a workshop, I think. A right number of manageable number of species, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, it is very.
Um, yeah, it was really interesting just you don't really think of bugs when you think of migrants really and coming to light traps on the south coast, but that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
there was another species. I think it was a shield bug that did exactly the same, but many around it was about maybe about a dozen years ago, I think. Mysidia, was it Mysidia? I can't remember the name of it now. I don't know if anybody else knows. Um, it was like an sort of elongated pale shield bug, and it turned up in many moth traps because it dispersed from its more normal climes of North Africa and uh, subtropical parts of Africa. So yes, these things do occasionally happen, and we've got to thank moth trappers really for
Yeah,
recording this stuff, and they should be encouraged to try and record uh, some of the groups that they're not specifically they haven't specifically um, aimed to get really, but they can take photographs, um, and it's quite easy just to send in through to iRecord, and one of us experts will have a look at it and see if we can identify it. And yeah, I mean, I think last year, at the end of last year, I think one moth trapper uh, sent me a photograph with five five of these containers, each containing Nabis capsiformis. So they come in reasonable numbers, and so I think that was the most in one trap I think we had. So, but yeah, impressive.
you just think of the sheer number that are actually coming over if you
Yeah,
go in one light trap.
it's all part of this aerial
Yeah,
plankton thing, I think. There's just a fantastic amount of stuff that moves around, I'm sure.
yeah.
And we only get to see a small part of it, really. So who knows what we're going to get this coming season or
And
later in the season.
Mattia has written into the group there, so Mysidia Lindberghi.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks, Mattia.
That's the one. Uh,
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Jim? You can just unmute yourself and ask the question, or you could just write it into the chat. But yeah, if we've got no other questions forthcoming, can let Jim go and relax. And
yes, with a break. Uh, Thank you, everybody.
okay,
So
all right.
thank you
Well,
for yeah,
sorry.
thank you for everybody for attending and listening to my chat to raise awareness of damsel bugs and assassin bugs. Two really interesting groups. Thank you.
Yeah, and you made them really interesting, Jim. So thank you very much
Glad.
indeed, and hopefully see you in the summer out in the field.
Yeah.
But
Oh yes. Yeah. I'll be looking out for your field trips definitely. I mean, Teg's Nose last year was amazing.
it's a great
Um,
site that. Yeah.
Great site, absolutely. So I'm looking forward.
Okay, brilliant. Right.
Then,
Cool. All
okay.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Uh,
everyone.
All right. Good night.
Good night.